It's kind of like I'd rather a gun not go off. I'd rather a gun to jam up. I'd rather a gun to not go off than for a gun to go off on its own.
Dangerously defective.
We've seen many, many instances where the gun has fired where the hand is not and cannot be on or near the trigger.
Such was the case in Milwaukee, July 2020. Officer Robert Parks accidentally shot his partner Adam Maritano. Parks' P320 fired while in its holster as he arrested a suspect.
They still deal with that shock every day, and then Officer Parks obviously deals with the guilt of his gun going off and shooting his partner.
The lawsuit claims, quote, the full extent of the physical damage to Maritano's leg is not yet known, and Parks has suffered emotional distress. That accidental discharge was among the first of MPD. The fourth happened just this week. Sources telling 12 News a federal agent's holstered P320 went off, hitting the agent.
I want to say a ticking time bomb, but it's something that is just going to keep repeating itself, we believe, unless something changes.
Attorney Zimmerman says he's getting calls every week of new cases in which the P320 misfires. Now they're aiming to hold SIG Sauer accountable.
Do you believe that SIG Sauer was aware of these issues?
Yes, SIG Sauer has known for years that this gun is susceptible to an unintended discharge.
Reserve officer was seriously injured when he says his SIG Sauer P320 service weapon went off without him pulling the trigger. Bob Northrup has 49 years of law enforcement experience. He was injured while working an off-duty job at a high school baseball and softball game. When he brushed his service belt reaching for his keys, he says his holstered gun fired, blowing apart bones in his leg and his ankle.
Did you feel like you could have died that night?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's scary.
It resembles many other prior incidents that have happened across the country.
Northrop is now suing SIG Sauer.
Just switched from the SIG Sauer P320 to the Glock 45. Both guns generally look the same, the SIG a little longer and a little heavier, but both guns are similar in how they shoot. Jake Fleischman, a range safety officer at Bear Arms Indoor Shooting Range, showed the I-Team the differences between how the two guns work.
Comparing, if you're talking about a fist-sized group, that way, if you're talking about to a person's vitals, if an MPD officer ever had to use it, it's going to be within that range. 17+1 capacity.
Off the range, Jake pointed out some of the finer details.
The SIG does not have an external trigger safety on it. The Glock does. So the Glock has this little safety on the front. So if you were to pull this little trigger without it, it will not go off that way.
Going off is what had the Milwaukee Police Department concerned. Since 2020, there are 3 reports of a SIG Sauer P320 firing when it wasn't supposed to, injuring 2 officers along the way. The Milwaukee Police Union filed a lawsuit against the city because of this, but says it will drop the lawsuit with the switch to Glock.
Guys, I don't know if you guys been hearing some of the news that's been going on out there with the SIG situation, which is crazy because I know people who have the SIG 320s. The SIG 320s, and I wouldn't talk about it if it was just like a random thing, but it seems as though it's starting to be a reoccurring event with the SIG 320s. People's firearm, their pistol just going off literally on its own. And they have some footage that's going around out there showing people's pistol just going off on its own. Now, the one reason you might remember, well, I'm sure if you've been following the channel at all, you know I'm a Springfield fan, as well as a Glock fan, but I'm a Springfield XD fan because a while back I made a video saying that Springfield is the best gun for a newbie. Meaning a person, say if it's your first firearm, and I've referred to Springfield to people when they've got it and they've been good ever, and a lot of them, that's their only firearm, but they've been good with it. The thing about Springfield, as with this Springfield here, Springfield XD9, that my wife is in love with, and that I respect quite a lot also, this Springfield here. This was actually this was my first Springfield, and I have concealed carried this, and it conceals carries beautifully. But what I love about it is this grip safety. Now, you have your G.I. Joe guys that say, oh, in a battle, you know, everybody want to put themselves in the middle of a serious battlefield. Oh, in a battle, some gravel or something could get maybe in the creases of that safety trigger, and then you can't pull your trigger, or you don't get a good purchase on your gun, and then your gun won't fire. Well, this is called a grip safety, guys, and this gun will not activate. You see me pulling the trigger? I just showed you guys it was clear. See how I'm pulling the trigger? This gun won't activate. But the minute you engage the grip safety and then pull the trigger, you heard that? The gun activates. Okay? So once again, the gun is clear. But without hitting that grip safety, this gun will not activate. Meaning, if you carried it in a concealed holster, and say one day you were going to pull your firearm out of the holster at the end of the night, you got a long day, you're really tired, and you just want to put your gun up, you go in and say just by happenstance, you go to your gun, usually most people carry their firearm with one in the chamber already. So your gun one is in the pipe, so all it takes is the squeeze of a trigger for that gun to go off, as the case with SIG. SIG doesn't have this grip safety. SIG doesn't even have the, and I love SIG. I don't own a SIG, but you see this little extra lever here? That's called a trigger safety. If something was to get caught up in there, your trigger won't go off unless it's all the way in the middle of the actual trigger. See that little lever there? That's called the trigger safety. Glock has that and Springfield has that. That's called the trigger safety. Your hand, you have to be in the very middle of that trigger for it to go off. Okay. But what I was saying, say at the end of a long day, you go in and put your gun up, you're tired, and say you go to drop, you fumbled your gun, you go to drop it, and you just want to, and your instinct's going to tell you to get your gun before it hits the floor. So you're going to catch it, and guess what? Your finger goes in that trigger guard. Bah! You shoot yourself in the foot, or the leg, or somebody that's near you. That's if it's a Glock, or if it's a Springfield, because Springfield doesn't have trigger safety, and Glock doesn't have this grip safety. So you go in and you catch your gun, you catch it, but guess what? Bow! It goes off because you caught it. Your finger went in the trigger groove when you caught it. As with this Springfield XD, if it was the end of a long night, you go to put your gun up and you happen to fumble it and it's dropping. Even if you were to catch the firearm and your finger, and you're catching it, your finger went in that trigger guard, it still wouldn't shoot. You know why? Because my hand is not on the grip safety, okay? My hand has to be on that grip safety for this firearm to go off. So remember, it won't go off. Hand on the grip safety, fully engaged, then it goes off. And that's why I called Springfield XD the safest firearm for a new gun owner. Really, I believe it's the safest firearm for any gun owner, as far as not too many of the pistols that are out there use this grip safety. 1911s actually were the first using the grip safety, which is a good thing. The 1911 has the grip safety mechanism built into it, whereas this firearm for this firearm to go off, your hand, see it there? That button there. Your hand has to fully be engaged for this firearm to go off. It's called a grip safety. It's a very important, I think it's an important mechanism to have on a firearm. And like we said, the G.I. Joe people say, nah, that could slow you down in battle. When I go and grab my gun, I just need to come out shooting. Say if it was like a fast, concealed situation, you need to grab and come out shooting. That's what they worried about. What if I grab it real fast and my hand is not all the way on that and I'm trying to shoot somebody in a hyped up situation and my hand is not, right now my hand ain't on the grip safety, my gun won't go off. So guys, that means if you own a Springfield XD, practice you're reaching from your quick draw, your holstering, pulling from concealment. Of course, make sure the gun is unloaded when you practice that. If you're at home, make sure the gun is unloaded. Just be safe. Don't be as crazy as BigBoysNoise. I actually go and I like to train pulling and shooting from concealment. Don't be as crazy as me. But make sure the gun is empty and work on your quick draw. But make sure, first of all, when you're drawing, you want to get deep in that pocket there. When you're drawing your weapon, your hand automatically should hit that button. You want to get in there so you can pull out and then your gun will go off, okay? But that's all. That's why I call Springfield the safest firearm over Glock. Now, Glock has clear, guys, clear, totally clear, no magnet. Glock does have the trigger safety. Remember I told you about the trigger safety, which is a good thing. Meaning for this gun to go off, you really got to get your finger all the way in there to pull the trigger, okay? But Glock has no grip safety. And that works perfect for the guys who want to talk about being in the battlefield. I don't want nothing that can slow my gun down, no gravel, that get in there. I just want to be able to, that's cool. I'm not telling you that Springfield XD, I'm a lover of all firearms, guy, and I'm not here to tell you that Springfield XD is the best pistol. I'm here to tell you Springfield XD is the safest pistol, especially striker fire pistol. And I'm here to tell you that Springfield XD is the family man's pistol. You know what I mean? It gets the job done. I'm telling you, I've never felt safer than with a Springfield XD, concealing a Springfield XD. Just because of that mechanism. I told you guys about the story. If you got little kids around you, you know, sometimes it's like you got a gun on your waist and it's pointed downward. You might have 4-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old. I've been there before. They running around your waist, daddy, hugging your legs and stuff like that. Even wouldn't it feel good to know that if you got one in the chamber of this gun, that this gun can't even go off if it was to get hit hard, or even if you were to put your finger into that trigger, it wouldn't go off unless your hand is fully engaged on that grip. So when I put the gun in the holster, I put it in the holster like this. When I put the Springfield into a holster, it goes in like this. I don't even put my hand on the grip when I'm putting it in, because what if, just in case something was to actually snag the trigger, like a coat string, a string hanging off of your coat with the little notches that tighten up, you know, the little notches that tighten the string up to make your hoodie tight, or your coat, the middle part of your coat, if anything was to snag, get in there on its way down, still won't go off. Still won't go off. Because that grip safety is engaged. So I put it in like this. Keep my hand off the grip safety, put it down in the holster. No problemo. But yeah, guys, that's my take on that. And this SIG 320 thing is very interesting. I'm not here to say throw SIG 320s away, but that is something that will bother me a little bit mentally. And I'm sure one day I'll probably have a SIG. You know what I mean? But that's like, there's some video footage and it's starting to be like triple digits numbers, like hundreds, you know, of cases where it's happening with the SIG 320. But mind you, the SIG, also I believe it's the SIG 320 that is the weapon now of our, it's either, I don't know it all, but I think it's our soldiers or the military are now using the SIG. They beat out Glock and Smith & Wesson. So, I mean, you're going to have your issues that come up with things, but it's just scary when I think of some of the 320s. It's probably just like, it's not all of them. It's probably just a bad batch. It's probably recall time, but that's a hell of a thing to have to recall back. I've heard of guns, I'd rather a gun, it's kind of like I'd rather a gun not go off. I'd rather a gun to jam up. I'd rather a gun to not go off than for a gun to go off on its own. You know what I mean? So it's just a thing I was thinking about. You guys let me know how you feel about that. I'll talk to y'all in a little while. Big Boy Noise. Make sure you like and subscribe, guys. Happy holidays.